Welcome to Matrimonial Merger, the podcast where Ambry and Jesse, a husband and wife couple, share their insights and experiences on relationships, health, and wealth. With their expertise in business and as neuro-linguistic master practitioners, they provide valuable advice on overcoming challenges and achieving success. Join us for practical tips on navigating the intersection of personal and professional life.
Welcome to the Matrimonial Merger. Jesse and Amber here, and today we're going to be talking about why it's important to lose yourself in the service of others, but more importantly, why it's so important that you do not lose your complete, full self while serving others. So
there's a difference there.
Huge difference. Welcome back to the Matrimonial Merger. And Amber, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great.
I'm so glad.
Fantastic. How are you doing?
I got my butt kicked by a rigorous workout this evening.
Jesse had to do like at least 100 crunches, I think.
300.
Oh, 300.
300 crunches. And then after the 300 crunches. Do you
feel like you got punched in the stomach?
Yes. And then after the 300 crunches, they have what's called a finisher. And I think of like Mortal Kombat, and like the body's just like, whoa, it's like, finish him. And you cut the head off. That's exactly what happened tonight.
Gosh.
So I had a finisher of walkout push-ups. And
those are good.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
I'm fried. And then we went on a walk. I got my 10,000 steps.
Good for you.
I'm committed to health.
I need a couple more thousand.
There you go.
So I'm gonna sit here and do air punches while we talk.
There you go. If you start panting,
if I'm out of breath, you'll know why.
Exactly. Well, tonight, Amber, I really, really want to get involved with, first of all, starting off with a story about our good friend Grace here, and really get and hone in on the importance of why it's important, yes, to serve, but more importantly, why you need to really pay attention to how much you're serving, and more importantly, like, make sure that you don't lose yourself completely.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure. Let's jump right into the story.
Let's do it.
We'll unpack it.
Yeah.
Okay, so once upon a time, there's a kind-hearted person named Grace. Grace loved nothing more than helping others and honestly putting their needs before her own. She spent most of her days volunteering at local charities or schools, community events, whatever she could. She never really turned down a request from a friend or family member. Anytime someone needed something, she'd be the first to jump in and help. As time went on, Grace became increasingly involved in her service to others. She started to take on more and more responsibility, often sacrificing her own needs, once again, and desires in the process. She stopped doing the things she used to enjoy, like reading, spending time with her friends, and instead she focused all of her energy on serving other people. One day, Grace woke up and realized that she didn't even recognize the person she had become. She had literally lost herself in her service to others. She didn't know who she was anymore. She had become so consumed by helping others that she had forgotten about her own needs and desires. Grace felt lost and alone. She knew that she needed to find her way back to herself. She started taking small steps, like carving out time each day to do things that brought her joy. She started to set boundaries with people in her life, friends, family, and anyone else that she needed to. She started learning to say no when she needed to and prioritizing her own needs. Slowly but surely, Grace began to rediscover herself. She realized that she didn't have to sacrifice her own happiness and well-being in order to help others. By taking care of herself first, she was actually better able to serve those around her. In the end, Grace actually learned a valuable lesson about the importance of balance in life. And I'll add boundaries in life to balance and boundaries in life. She continued to serve others, and she also made sure to prioritize her own needs and desires. She continued to live a happy and fulfilling life, and she inspired others around her to do the same.
I think that's a really cool
The
story.
end.
The end.
There's your story for the day.
I think that's a really cool story because I think that it comes from a place of sincere gratitude and a desire to help.
100%. I literally have been Grace in my life.
I think times. I have too. Right.
I think a lot of us could feel that way in a certain regard, whether it's in our relationships, literally every aspect of our lives or in our business. I think we can like relate to just laying it all out day in, day out, and not taking time to understand ourselves even.
Right. And I think that the biggest importance to this whole story is recognizing that, like we both said, we both recognize we're aware, right? But also more importantly, becoming aware of your needs, right? I mean, I'm thinking of a situation that happened to me recently where someone that we're working with, we challenged him to write down our infamous 100 wants list. That thing, like if money's not an issue, 100 things you want for yourself. And he barely got past 10 without recognizing his first limiting emotional feedback. And the feedback was very interesting because he's like, I've always had everything I've wanted, and this just seems like it's out of excess. And it was very interesting because the purpose of this challenge is to get you to really think and to find motivation, to unlock your mind, to look for resources. It's like there's so many different purposes behind this, but he hit the nail on the head when he said, I feel like this is excessive and I would be greedy if I had all these things without helping other people. And then it was interesting because later on, he's like, I don't even know if I'm like your ideal person to work with. And he was completely content with serving other people. Meanwhile, he's over there saying the things that he was feeling about greed and how he couldn't have those. And he had this equivalent that, or this if I have everything, then no one else is being served.
Yeah.
And he didn't have this idea that he could have both and actually be happy with both.
Right. Which is a very common, like, if-then belief.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Could be adjusted to fit your circumstance, but I think that's something that we all have experienced or believed at some time in our life. I mean, I know that, there are some days where I'm like, if I, go to the gym or if I take 5 minutes to just like meditate and be quiet, then I'm not doing this or that, or I'm sacrificing, insert something here, like time with you, time with the kids, time, whatever. But at the end of the day, like if you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you may remember one of our first episodes titled "It's All About You." This episode is going to kind of expand on that a little bit, because if you remember in that episode, if you haven't listened to it, it's a great episode to go back and listen to. But we talk about that you are doing your family, your friends, those that you are most trying to please in your life, you're doing them a disservice by limiting your potential or not taking the time you need to be your best self, because they deserve just that. They deserve your best self. And so if you're not able to deliver your best self to them, I think sometimes we feel like the sacrifices we make are heroic when really they're, detrimental to our family and detrimental to the actual goal that we want to accomplish. So, I think that's something that is just so common, is to create this heroic perception out of something that is actually not a great thing.
Well, and I think it's because we create this perception because that's what we've literally been conditioned to believe is the hero's journey.
Yeah,
right?
It's true.
The hero goes through all this stuff, sacrifices for everyone else, and finally becomes the hero on top. And deep down, rooted in our minds, in an unconscious form, because we've been conditioned through our entire life of the hero's journey, from the Disney movie we watched, clear to Rocky to Gladiator, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? All these movies have some sort of hero's journey because that's what sells. That's what talks and speaks to the unconscious mind of all the pain and suffering that someone's been through, to the point where, like you said, we create this illusion that we are serving and that we're doing all these things, and we're putting off our quote unquote natural man to serve other people, when realistically we are putting ourselves off completely, and we're not giving our full self to people.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I feel like I want to clarify here, like serving other people. And we're obviously kind of hinting at like there's a scripture that says, lose yourself in the service of others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find yourself. And so like, I don't want to paint a picture that like serving is a negative thing, because it's not. And a lot of times, when we're in a funk or a slump or there's something going on in our life, finding someone to serve oftentimes does boost us, and it gives us a huge sense of fulfillment and gratitude. And so I don't want to paint that picture. The picture like trying to paint here though is that it can come to a point, and you would want to avoid it coming to a point where you are, my iPhone or my iWatch, my Apple Watch is listening and trying to give me answers. But you don't want to get to the point where you're exhausted all the time, or you have no time for yourself or your family, because all you do is help other people or put out fires, or go out of your way all the time doing things that maybe aren't even serving you or the other people at the end of the day, right?
Sure.
And it's all about boundaries, like our story about Grace talked about. Simple, effective boundaries will go a long way in getting you to this point. But going back to like your friend, you talked about the list of the 100 wants. If you don't know what it is you want, and you're not working towards that, and all you're doing is working for other people, you'll lose yourself.
I've got an interesting.
You're not going to find what you want.
I've got an interesting take as well here, because I remember when I went through this, like a lot of you are familiar with the story. Like I didn't know who I myself was, and I had to go through this journey to figure out me. And I'll tell you what, I hate serving with physical force. I hate lifting furniture. I don't. That's not my jam, right?
Don't ask Jesse to help you move.
Don't ask me to help you move. Don't ask me to help you pull weeds, clean up your trash. Don't ask me to help you do that kind of stuff, right? But see, here's where I'm getting to. I understand that about me. Mm-hmm. What if you didn't understand that about you, and you start doing all these service projects thinking you're serving other people and giving everything, but for whatever reason you walk away negative and unhappy? It's because you haven't uncovered that you actually don't enjoy doing that type of service, right?
Could you learn to enjoy it?
I don't know. What if you truly don't enjoy it? Like, here's an example. Okay. I'll never forget. I'm 14 years old. I'm hanging on a ladder and I'm painting someone's house. And I have a bunch of other people kind of chaperoning, making sure that the kids are fine on the ladder. It was a youth service project. And I remember sitting there going, I freaking hate this. It's hot outside. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be here. And I walked away not feeling grateful for helping someone, but rather upset because I was doing something I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be there. Yeah. But I couldn't understand it. And I had this mental issue of like, well, I'm supposed to serve. Why do I hate serving people? Mm-hmm. And it was because I literally hated the physical work associated with it. It was not fun for me. Mm-hmm. And so we have this from time to time. I'm going to say I had this idea that service was only one way of serving.
Gotcha.
And I hated it.
So you almost have like this paradigm in your mind that in order to serve, you have to do something you don't like doing.
Right.
And you have to be like miserable, but you have to do it.
But it's because as a child, I was taught, oh, well, we got to go mow this lawn. Oh, we got to go shovel these walks. And I hated physical work. Like, that's just not who I am. And I am more of a brain type of individual and trying to help people emotionally. So I would rather go show up to someone's house and listen to them and be there for them and give them advice, almost like what we're doing right here, coaching. And this is my form of serving other people. But for whatever reason, I kept getting thrown into, oh, well, you're a man. You got to go pick up and shovel and do all these things, which I didn't freaking want to do.
So if I'm understanding what you're saying, then it's important to understand how you thrive in serving and helping others 100%. As well, because that is also how you find the most joy. And that's how you find yourself in the service of other people, is when you truly enjoy, when it's something that you thrive in and that you feel so much fulfillment through, you do find yourself. You
Yes.
find gifts about yourself. You find abilities you may not have known. And you are blessed through, the
Right.
like feeling someone else's joy, their energy, and that's an awesome perk to it, right? But you can enjoy it doesn't have to be an awful sacrifice
Right.
to make an impact and serve other people in the world in a huge and impactful way.
See, and I'm the
That's
type
what
of
I'm
person.
getting from what you said.
Well, 100%. I'm the type of person. And once again, this is why it's so important to understand yourself, because if you ever walk away feeling frustrated or upset at a service project, that's your first clue, right? That whatever you're doing isn't actually aligned with who you are or what you like doing.
Yeah.
But like,
There's something there. I mean, it could
Yeah.
be a program that needs to shift. Like, cause I mean, you could, if you wanted to, probably learn to enjoy doing something, right?
You could.
mean, but do you have to? Not necessarily if there's something more that you have as an innate gift within you to offer
Right.
other people.
But you got to understand what those gifts are, right? And so what I'm getting to on this, as far as this like conversation goes, I'm challenging everyone who comes through our coaching to write down this 100 wants, because this 100 wants list really starts to shape who you are. Like, you ask me, how would you serve if you had something on your list? Like, we talk about a jet, right? I literally have a jet on my list as something I want. A private jet. I could fly around the world whenever. Why do I want it? There's so many different reasons, right? Are there personal reasons? Yes. But more importantly, imagine if I could send someone in the jet across the United States or to another state quickly so that they could see a dying relative, or be there for someone who's not doing so well, or send a parent or a sister or a brother across the U.S. on this jet so that they could be there for the birth of a niece or nephew. Whatever the case, that's my way of serving. My way of serving is allowing people, versus if you ask certain people in my family, I won't label who, but they have a hard time sharing their material items. But that's a gift I have, is I have no problem sharing the material item. I just don't like sharing my physical labor.
That's so funny. I love it.
And so it's so important to understand who you are.
Yeah, it's true. And to lean into accept it, right? And capitalize on it, because I think also sometimes we look so much at what other people are doing, or someone challenges something because it's different than the way they think. And so you're like, oh, that must be wrong. I should probably change. Not necessarily. Like, maybe that is part of what makes you you. And that is what's going to impact those around you. That is how you are going to find the joy in the service. It's not by saying yes to every single thing you get asked to do. It's not by, going out of your way 24/7 to do whatever it takes to help other people like that. I don't know. I think you can probably hear the intention behind this, right? Like, I love helping people. I genuinely feel joy when I help somebody. When I feel like I've lifted someone's burden just a little bit, it gives me joy. If I'm at Costco and I can text a couple of my friends and grab something at Costco for them and save them a trip, like, I get excited about that. I love that. Like, it's so simple and silly, but like, I love that, right? So find the little things, or big or small, in your life that can bring you joy and also are aligned with, with your life.
Yeah.
For instance, like for me, time, I mean, I think everyone can agree with this. Time is a huge asset. So if I'm going to Costco, and I'm just using this example because this is fresh on my mind, but if I'm going to Costco, I'm already there. Likely, like if there's someone in my neighborhood who just had surgery or had a baby, or I just know is kind of having a rough day, if I can text them and just a quick 2-second text that says, hey, I'm going to Costco. Do you need anything? It does two things. One, they know someone's thinking about them. Two, I'm already at Costco. So if they do need something, it's like, I'm right there. I don't want to use the word kill two birds with one stone, but there you go. And so find things that that already kind of fit into your life and the way that you live, and that aren't completely putting you out of your way all the time. Sometimes we go out of our way, and it's incredible and we love it and it works out really great. But if you're doing that every day of your life, you will burn out, and then you probably will hate helping anyone.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And more importantly, it just goes back down to like, are you feeling a negative emotion tied with the things that you want?
Yeah.
Because you're worried about someone else. And that is a very, very big indicator that you're losing yourself personally while trying to focus on everyone else. And so if you're feeling a negative emotion of greed, or you're feeling a negative emotion of, oh, I have everything I want, but other people suffer, like, that's great. But I'm going to ask you, do you truly have everything you want? And if you tell me, well, yeah, I have everything I want, then fantastic. But I still don't believe you, because there are things every single day that pop up that we could truly want for ourselves. And although it's very, very good, right? Like, to serve. I mean, I look at this podcast as service, dedicating our time to sit and talk about these types of things to people, and giving our resources and things we've spent our hard-earned money on, as far as coaching and working with, you know, some of the top, smartest people in the world, as far as getting your mind right. I think that this is a way of us to serve, but this is a way that
I thought it was a date night.
It's a date night too. But there's a lot of like, what I'm trying to get to is, you've got to serve in the way that you feel like you can contribute. Putting me on a ladder? No. Putting me in a soup kitchen? No. Going to the homeless shelter? No. Right? There are people that thrive on that, that love that, but that's not who I am.
Yeah.
Put me in a room full of people that are emotionally hurting and allow me to build them up and help them see the good in themselves. Give that responsibility to me all day, and I'll be there 100%. But you've got to discover that for yourself first in order to give.
I like that. And I think that resonates with me, because like, as you're talking, I'm sitting there going like, I want to do all of those things. Like, I'm the type of person that would be like, I want to go to the soup kitchen and do the, what else did you say? I don't know.
Homeless
like food
shelter,
drive, homeless shelter, clothing drive, and help people who are having a hard time emotionally. Like, whatever. I'm like, I literally would love to do all of those things, right? Every day. Does that make sense for me, or is that in line or aligned with my current reality? Not necessarily. And, or like, is it truly going to serve my highest purpose? Because I also have children that I am serving day in and day out, who are a huge priority to me, because they are the next generation of, people who will be leading. And anyways, like, there's so many things that we can fill our time with, that it truly does need to be very intentional and created. Otherwise, you just named like 10 things that, maybe not 10, but there's an abundance of ways to use our time for good. Yeah. All of them good things, right? And so, which ones are the best for you?
But do you understand yourself enough to maximize the best where you're needed the most, right? We talk about in last week's episode, the rising tide lifting all the boats. Well, you've got to understand what your personal tide is to help rise it. Like, you've got to understand yourself. And so, like, I keep going back to this scenario I had today, where this individual was telling me how he felt greed, that he had an abundance, and that other people need help, and that if he had all these things, he would just continue to help other people, which is fantastic. Like, I'm not questioning your heart, but why are we feeling greed? Why are we feeling like a negative emotion for having the things that we want? And is there something else internally you haven't discovered about yourself that by having that item would actually be like more beneficial and help rise the tide? Like, I think of here, once again, an example. I'm not materialistic at all. Like, I love things, don't get me wrong, but I'm not materialistic in the way that, like, if someone asked if they could try on a watch or try on my shoes, whatever the case, that I would give it to them and I'd let them try it on, drive my car. I'm not materialistic in that nature whatsoever. So it was not Like for me, when we had our McLaren and we were allowing people to drive around with that, that gave me so much joy seeing smiles on kids' faces, seeing people that I know would never get to experience a McLaren in their life based off of the current decisions they're making, being able to see a big smile on their face and just feel that was awesome. And that right there is me serving at my highest capability in a way that is unique and special to me. That's where I got my most joy felt, but it was because I understood that. I didn't just go out there and say, oh, I'm going to serve and stand up for mow every lawn and shovel every walk. But I had to understand myself and not truly, you have to learn about you first.
Yeah. I like that because I think, like, going back to, if you were to write a list of material items, right? Like, I think that there's a lot of times programming that would suggest that is greedy, or it's more than you quote unquote need, or whatever. And that's a very real thing. However, I think that what we're not considering is if I have a private jet, I mean, I probably didn't just go into like millions of dollars of debt to get a jet, right?
Right.
I have probably built something and built a life up to that point that, like you said, what are we not considering when we look at that and we're attaching a negative emotion? Well, what if it's not? What if it's a positive? What if it is supporting your desire to help and serve people
at a greater
and also
level.
Like going back to like, I probably didn't just go into debt to get that jet. So there's probably abundance and more than I'm able to do and share because of that position I'm at, right?
Right.
Because of what I've built, what I've grown, and the amount of money I'm able to generate. How much more can I actually do, right? And I mean, your heart and your mind have to be in that place already, because it's not like if you make $50,000 a year or $50 million a year, if you're not generous with 50,000, you're not going to be generous with 50 million, right? But if you're generous with your 50,000, think about how much you could do with 50 million, right? If that's the type of person you are, you're probably not going to just turn into some like horrible person who sits there and like sleeps in their money overnight. You know what I mean? Like you're going, let the wonderful desires you have push you and motivate you in that direction. Like we have some friends that their parents like did something super nice for somebody a couple weeks ago because they have the financial means to do so, and it was a substantial thing they did for this person that we love. And it brought me so much joy to watch that happen. I was like, I can't wait to do that someday. Like, I can't wait to be able to bless someone else's life, financially or not. But like, our temporal needs and financial needs are obviously a thing, right? And there's sometimes when people are going without, and to be able to bless them and do something, like, I think sometimes we forget that part of it when we're like, oh, this is greedy. It's like, well, if you have this, you're probably also able to do that, You can have both. It's not this or that. It's this and that.
Yep, 100%. And I think that that's the main message we want to hit home tonight is it's okay to serve. In fact, it's highly encouraged to serve.
Absolutely.
But it's also okay to serve in a way that is meant for you and a way that fills your cup even more. It's okay to be a little greedy with your service because you want it to really maximize your life, as opposed to just going and doing something to check it off a list. And I think that in Grace's situation, you have to be cognizant and aware of what you're doing,
right,
and why you're doing it. And that's with anything in this world. You have to understand the intention behind the why. And that way, when there are situations like, once again, if you're on a ladder painting a house and that's not what you're enjoying, then why are you there? Why are you doing it? And you have to understand your why in order to understand your why, you have to understand yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want to share with you tonight. And just want to say thank you so much for listening to this podcast and being here. And like I said earlier, this podcast specifically for me, and I'm pretty sure for you as well, Ambry, but this podcast is a way for us to serve in a different way, to take the knowledge and things that we've learned throughout life and share that with you, with the hopes that this will help you become the person that you want to become, and understand that it's okay to think and to do things differently, because you're literally one of one, and and you're meant and designed to do things differently in your own way, because you are a special person on this earth with a special role and a special destiny.
Right. I love that.
Awesome.
We each have such unique abilities and purpose, and it's a shame that, our life and society and social media sometimes drag us into the habit of comparing ourselves to someone else and trying to do something the way someone else does it because they have 1 million followers or whatever it is, right? But like Jesse said, you are one of one. There's no one else that's you. So how are you going to capitalize on you?
Love that. Thank you all for listening to the Matrimonial Merger. We hope you have a fantastic day.
Great week, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to the Matrimonial Merger podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found it informative and entertaining. If you did, we would love it if you could share this podcast with your friends and family who might also be interested in topics related to marriage and relationships. And if you have a few minutes, please consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us improve the show and reach more listeners like you. Thanks again for listening to the Matrimonial Merger. We'll be back soon with another episode.